Chapter 441. Li Qiye glared at the little mud eel. With your lazy personality that only eats and sleeps, you want to become an immortal emperor. Are you daydreaming? If you want to become an immortal emperor, first refine your spiritual domain. If the domain hasn't become a realm, what are you talking about becoming an immortal emperor? The little mud eel, being glared at by Li Qiye, felt guilty and fawned. With the young master here, how dare this junior compete with the young master for the position of immortal emperor? Becoming a true god is enough for me. No immortal emperor, no. The heaven's will is only meant for the young master. If the young master does not become the immortal emperor, no one in this world is qualified. Old Taoist Peng muttered. Two great gods. If the junior brothers cannot appease the domain god, it will probably vanish just like the calamity god of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Xianxia couldn't help but ask. The cleansing incense ancient sect once had the calamity god, and the heavenly Tao Academy has the domain god. They are called the two great gods. Who is stronger? Since Xianxia was a child, she had heard of the two great gods. They were distant legends, and she never expected to discuss them at such close range today. Old Taoist Peng chuckled evasively. That is not easy to say. Not easy to say, difficult to say. Li Qiye said. That depends on where. If it is within the heavenly Tao Academy, the domain god controls the earth veins. It was born here and achieved godhood. Here. It is rooted in this land, and the heaven and earth are at its disposal. The domain god guards the heavenly Tao Academy. It can be said that no one can rival it. As long as the domain god does not leave the heavenly Tao Academy and remains rooted in this land, even if an immortal emperor comes personally, they might not necessarily surpass it in strength. If the domain god leaves the heavenly Tao Academy, then it's hard to say. After all, its blood energy is depleted, and fighting the calamity god would put it at a great disadvantage. Xianxia was shaken. That powerful. An immortal emperor coming personally might not be able to breach the domain god. How terrifying is that? Li Qiye glanced at Xianxia and said. The heavenly Tao Academy has been able to stand firm since the ancient ages for a reason. Moreover, the domain god's origin is earth-shattering, you cannot imagine it. It's a pity it was implicated by the heavenly Tao Academy, it succeeded because of the heavenly Tao Academy and failed because of the heavenly Tao Academy. If the domain god had left the heavenly Tao Academy when it was young, it would have borne the heaven's will and become an immortal emperor. Old Taoist Peng smiled faintly and said. The domain god was born in the heavenly Tao Academy and the old folks nurtured it with all their effort. It is natural that the domain god considers the heavenly Tao Academy its home and does not want to leave. Li Qiye glanced at old Taoist Peng and said. It's more accurate to say that your heavenly Tao Academy was reluctant for the domain god to leave. Over the past 10 million years, how many difficulties has the domain god blocked for the heavenly Tao Academy? The heavenly Tao Academy has made great contributions to the human race, but the domain god also played a very big role in that. Old Taoist Peng gave an awkward laugh and stammered. Correct, correct. Li Qiye slowly said. It is, after all, about to return to dust. The domain god has lived for too long, and the day will come for it to leave. No one in the world is immortal, not even immortal emperors, nor immortal existences. Li Qiye's words made old Taoist Peng feel sad and let out a sigh. Old Taoist Peng understood this truth, and the elders of the heavenly Tao Academy also understood. This day would inevitably come. To keep the domain god alive, the heavenly Tao Academy poured all its efforts into prolonging its lifespan. No matter how much effort they put in, the domain god would eventually depart. I want to take a trip to your heavenly Tao Academy. Li Qiye said to old Taoist Peng. Your earth veins have been fluctuating too violently recently, it is very strange. It is hard to say where the portal will open. I need to enter the heavenly Tao Academy to observe. Your ancestral Tao foundation locks this earth vein. I need to investigate your ancestral grounds to understand the nature of this current abnormality. During this time, Li Qiye not only instructed the little mud eel to investigate the changes in the earth veins, but he also made many calculations regarding the void gate. No one in the current age understood the void gate more than Li Qiye, so he felt that the probability of finding the genuine void gate in this generation was very high. Certainly. Old Taoist Peng quickly replied. I will ask the old junior brothers to arrange it for you. Old Taoist Peng was very happy to see Li Qiye entering the Heavenly Tao Academy. He was unfathomably deep, and perhaps he could seize an opportunity for the Heavenly Tao Academy. No. Li Qiye was silent for a moment and then said, Here's what we'll do, I'll just enter the Great World Academy. Old Taoist Peng asked quietly. Do I need to report to the Ancestral Master? Old Taoist Peng deeply wanted to know Li Qiye's background, wanting to know why he was acquainted with their Long Life Academy's Ancestral Master. This was utterly impossible. Or was Li Qiye a descendant of an old acquaintance of the Long Life Academy's Ancestral Master? No. Li Qiye shook his head and said, There's no need to alarm anyone. I just want to observe the situation of the earth veins. Li Qiye secretly sighed in his heart. It was better not to meet. Li Qiye did not want to see mother-in-law Mo now. The era was too distant, and the past was covered in dust. What was the point of meeting again? Old Taoist Peng did not insist. He nodded and said, I'll have little brother. You arrange it for you. That lad is the most outstanding disciple of our Heavenly Tao Academy's younger generation. His temperament and character are very good, worthy of cultivation. Old Taoist Peng deliberately glanced at Qi Xiaodia standing nearby. Li Qiye laughed, offering no comment. Li Qiye said to Qi Xiaodia, Pack up. Tomorrow, we will go to the Heavenly Tao Academy. The next day, Li Qiye led Qi Xiaodia and the little mud eel away from the ancestral god temple. Old Taoist Peng had not left the Long Life Academy but had already arranged everything for Li Qiye to enter the Great World Academy. Before leaving, Qi Xiaodia gazed longingly at the dilapidated ancestral god temple, looking at the statue of her chief family ancestor. Too many secrets were hidden in the ancestral god temple. The world did not know the origin of the two old temples, and even less what secrets were contained within. Qi Xiaodia was also unclear. To Qi Xiaodia, that old temple held too much. It could be said that the time spent in the temple changed her greatly, including her mindset and knowledge. Since arriving at the ancestral god temple, a door had been opened for Qi Xiaodia, allowing her to truly touch the Grand Great Tao. Before coming here, Qi Xiaodia was an arrogant canary, the princess of the lion's roar country. A proud daughter of heaven. No matter how humble Qi Xiaodia appeared on the surface, she still harbored the arrogance of a golden branch and jade leaf, accustomed to noble and lavish living. But upon arriving at the ancestral god temple, Qi Xiaodia was merely a devout cultivator, grinding away all her arrogance and hiding it within. Qi Xiaodia remained sincerely by Li Qiye's side. Before, Qi Xiaodia had only seen a small corner of the Great Tao. Only since following Li Qiye did she see the true Great Tao. Thanks to this, Qi Xiaodia set foot onto the Grand Great Tao, leading to the Supreme Palace. Li Qiye saw Qi Xiaodia's reluctance to leave the ancestral god temple and said, Go. If you want to come back later, there will always be an opportunity. Qi Xiaodia took a deep breath, bowed to her ancestor, stood up, and followed Li Qiye. The Heavenly Tao Academy, an inheritance that has stood firm for 10 million years, is the most ancient human race inheritance. Some people in the world say the origin of the human race's great Tao has two legends, one is the War God Temple, and the second is the Heavenly Tao Academy. The Heavenly Tao Academy is too ancient, so ancient that people do not know which era it originated from, unable to trace its beginning. Only when standing beneath the Heavenly Tao Academy's mountain gate can one comprehend the vastness and grandeur of the Academy. There are countless divine mountains and colossal peaks standing upright. The divine mountains pierce the clouds and the sky. The highest ones have the galaxy winding around them. Some colossal peaks cover the sky, forming a world of their own. Between the colossal peaks, divine bridges span millions of miles, connecting one towering divine mountain to another. In the Heavenly Tao Academy, divine cranes fly, flood dragons hide in the clouds, and auspicious beasts come and go. Standing outside the Heavenly Tao Academy, people wonder, is this an academy? It has already become a world of its own. Calling it the Heavenly Tao world would not be an exaggeration. Looking at the vast and majestic Heavenly Tao Academy, Qi Xiaodia was shaken and deeply moved. The western border territory of the Heavenly Tao Academy was merely a tiny corner, incredibly small. Stepping into the Heavenly Tao Academy's mountain gate, one can see a colossal ancient stele. Calling it an ancient stele is less accurate than calling it a massive rock face. Inscribed on the ancient stele are names. Some strokes are like iron hooks, some like dragons and snakes, and some are scrawled. Soaring Emperor, Vast Sea Emperor, Sky-Stepping Emperor, Immortal Butcher Teacher King, Martial God, Tao Ancestor. These figures who astounded their eras, invincible and sweeping across the 8 directions, all had their names carved onto the ancient stele. These were the most talented students the Heavenly Tao Academy had cultivated. Students who did not achieve invincibility were ashamed to return and leave their names on the ancient stele. The ancient stele was densely packed with names representing the invincible figures of successive generations who hailed from the Heavenly Tao Academy. Standing before the ancient stele and seeing the name of the Long River School, Qi Xiaodia's emotions were deeply stirred with pride. That was the ancestor, her family's ancestor. Her maternal ancestor once studied in the Heavenly Tao Academy. Later, he swept across the 8 directions. Even in the era when the sun-devouring emperor lived, the Long River School was still a sensation of the time. This was inscribed by the Long River School itself, the family heirloom of their maternal ancestor. Looking at the majestic family heirloom, Qi Xiaodia's heart pounded with excitement, and she clenched her fist. The Qi family's ancestor was the 100 Battles Divine Emperor, conferred a supreme title, acknowledged by a true god. The Long River School's maternal ancestor was an astonishment of his era. She, as a descendant, would one day spread the glory and divine might of her ancestors. Li Qiye looked at the ancient stele before him, saying nothing. The familiar names, the famous figures, the invincible ones, the geniuses who arrogantly ruled the past. Unfortunately, whether invincible or an immortal emperor, they all ultimately dissolved into the river of time. Every name on this ancient stele represented the pinnacle, a glorious era. Some were people Li Qiye knew, some he had heard of, and some had served before his war chariot. It was a pity that they all vanished in the end. The path of the great Tao walked alone is truly cruel and formless. Li Qiye let out a sigh and said to Qi Xiaodia, who was standing frozen before the ancient stele, "Let's go." Qi Xiaodia struggled to stabilize her surging emotions and followed behind Li Qiye. As the two stepped into the Heavenly Tao Academy, a young man descended the steps to greet them. The young man stepped down the staircase, cupped his hands toward Li Qiye and Qi Xiaodia, and asked with a smile, "This must be Brother Li, correct?" The young man had a robust and firm physique. Wherever he stood, he was like a majestic, unshakable mountain. The young man did not emit a terrifying aura, but his eyes were like dark, shining gemstones, resolute and powerful. "My name is Yue. Brother Li and Miss Qi have traveled far and wide. Please forgive me for not welcoming you sooner." The young man spoke politely, with an extraordinary demeanor. Li Qiye said nothing. Qi Xiaodia trembled upon hearing Yue. She never expected the Heavenly Tao Academy's head disciple to personally greet the two of them. Yue was a renowned figure in the eastern 100 cities. Although he had few famous battles, unlike luminary great talent Zhu Huangwu of the luminary ancient kingdom, who was born with astonishing talent and whose cultivation soared rapidly. Yue was not like the first Prince Ba Xia of the raging immortal holy nation, whose overbearing and terrifying aura was famous for challenging many prominent figures and being known for his battles. Yue pledged allegiance to the Heavenly Tao Academy, became the head disciple, and cultivated discreetly, enduring hardship and rarely challenging outsiders. However, Yue sat firmly on the #1 position as the Heavenly Tao Academy's head disciple, never fearing any challenger. Any genius who challenged Yue was firmly repelled. He was like a massive, unmoving mountain. Even the first Prince Xia of the raging immortal holy nation, who was born with the overlord physique, was met calmly by Yue when challenged. No one knew the outcome of the battle, but Xia returned to his country afterward and entered seclusion. The raging immortal holy nation spread news that Xia and Yue fought to a draw, but some speculated that Xia was unable to overwhelm Yue. It was just that Yue was too gentle, not overbearingly terrifying, and stopped once his point was proven. In the Eastern 100 cities, some people were curious enough to rank the younger generation. Some ranked fairy maiden Mei Suyao first, and Yue and luminary great talent Zhu Huangwu second. Such a ranking was quite reasonable. Of course, many people denied it, believing that Yue was not strong enough to be on par with Zhu Huangwu. In short, Yue was one of the strongest young geniuses in the Eastern 100 cities, but he always kept a low profile in the Heavenly Tao Academy, cultivating diligently. His reputation was not as thunderous as luminary great talent Zhu Huangwu or Xia. Li Qiye smiled and said, "Sorry to trouble you. We are going to the Great World Academy to register." Li Qiye was composed, as if he were just going sightseeing. Qi Xiaodia stood beside Li Qiye, listening to everything he said. "Then I shall guide Brother Li and Miss Qi." Yue did not prolong the conversation. He took out a sailboat and stepped onto it. Yue said, "It's still a long way to the Great World Academy. Allow me to give the two of you a ride." Li Qiye and Qi Xiaodia stepped onto the boat. Yue controlled the boat to fly high. The speed of the boat was astonishing, covering 10,000 miles in a flash. Li Qiye stood on the sailboat, feeling a pang of emotion upon seeing the old item. Wang Yuan's ride is truly interesting. This boat once sank into the sea and safely retreated in the past. Qi Xiaodia was shaken. She never expected this small boat to be the treasure of the semi-saint. What was the status of semi-saint Wang Yuan in the history of the Heavenly Tao Academy? This showed how highly the Heavenly Tao Academy regarded Yue. Yue was also shaken. Brother Li is knowledgeable. I am ashamed to be inferior. Yue had always used the sailboat, but few people could immediately recognize its origin at first glance. Li Qiye knew the boat's history just by looking, which greatly surprised Yue. He now understood why the high-level officials of the Heavenly Tao Academy suddenly recruited a student of such unknown origin. The sailboat glided through the air, flying into the Heavenly Tao Academy. Stepping into the Heavenly Tao Academy, one realizes how vast the heaven and earth truly are. Here, great rivers surge for 100,000 miles. Here, mountain ranges resemble colossal dragons spanning 1,000,000 miles. In this heaven and earth, there are large cities that can house 1,000,000 people. Here, divine bridges span across the 8 directions, connecting one towering divine mountain to another. This was Qi Xiaodia's first time visiting the Heavenly Tao Academy. Her heart trembled as she entered this world. If one only heard the name, they might think the Heavenly Tao Academy was merely an academy. That thought would be completely wrong. Calling the Heavenly Tao Academy an academy is less accurate than calling it a massive powerful nation, a colossal power. The Heavenly Tao Academy commands an extremely vast territory of mountains and rivers. In the Eastern 100 cities, perhaps only the Long River School could rival the colossal power of the Heavenly Tao Academy. Finally, Yue brought Li Qiye and Qi Xiaodia down to the Great World Academy. Calling this a courtyard is less accurate than calling it a great sect. The entire Great World Academy was formed by dozens of large valleys and tens of mountains, encompassing a vast area. Even small sects would not have the majestic aura of such ancestral divine land. Upon landing in the Great World Academy, one could immediately feel the dense heaven and earth essence. Never mind small sects, even ordinary sects and inheritances might not have such dense heaven and earth essence in their ancestral divine land. One can imagine how terrifying the earth veins are. Rumor has it that the Heavenly Tao Academy occupies the best earth vein in the entire Eastern 100 cities, perhaps even the best in the entire mortal emperor world. Therefore, throughout the ages, countless major figures have coveted the Heavenly Tao Academy's sacred land, but unfortunately, no one has been able to shake the Heavenly Tao Academy to this day. Li Qiye and Xianxia walked into a mountain. Yui had been instructed by his superiors to give the two of them a mountain, which was a very high treatment in the Great World Academy. After settling the two, Yui said, "The Great World Academy has tens of thousands of disciples. If Brother Li and Miss Qi wish to meet more fellow Taoists, I can introduce some to the two of you." Xianxia completely followed Li Qiye's commands and did not voice any opinion. Li Qiye shook his head. Li Qiye smiled and said, "No need. I'll rest for now." Yui then informed Li Qiye of some situations in the Great World Academy. "Very well. Every day in the Great World Academy, there will be lectures in a Dao Valley, held every 4 hours, given by the elders of the Heavenly Tao Academy. The two of you can choose any class you like." Finally, Yui said politely, "If Brother Li or Miss Qi have any matters, feel free to come find me at any time." Yui was very confused, not understanding why his superiors instructed him to welcome two students. These two students did not undergo any examination and did not pay tuition. Yui was very puzzled. There were countless geniuses at the time, but no matter who they were, the Heavenly Tao Academy would not allow backdoors. For example, geniuses like Xia and luminary great talent Zhu Huangwu had to pay sky-high tuition fees to enter the Sacred World Academy, or pass the Heavenly Tao Academy's examination. If they failed the examination, no matter how wealthy they were, they would not be admitted. Only true geniuses could enter the Sacred World Academy. As for supremely talented geniuses, if they passed all the examinations, they would be exempt from the high tuition fees. These super geniuses were happy to pass through all the trials and challenges. To them, passing the examination in one go was a kind of glory. Although the standards of the Great World Academy were the lowest, they were still strictly enforced according to the criteria. Disciples entering the Great World Academy either paid the fee or took the exam. If they passed the standard exam, they would receive a tuition reduction. What puzzled Yui was that Li Qiye and Xianxia did not take any exam and did not pay tuition. Xianxia was acceptable. She was the princess of the Lion's Roar country. And there were many such figures in the Heavenly Tao Academy. The problem lay with the mysterious Li Qiye. Yui did not understand why, if Li Qiye had an earth-shattering background, he wouldn't enter the Sacred World Academy but instead chose the Great World Academy. Furthermore, even if Li Qiye was a formidable genius, the Heavenly Tao Academy could not open a special backdoor for him. Luminary great talent Zhu Huangwu and divine person Ji Kong Wudi were powerful and invincible, right? But they had to take an exam to enter a stronger academy. To the Heavenly Tao Academy, geniuses were not that valuable. Since the ancient ages, countless geniuses had studied at the Heavenly Tao Academy. Immortal emperors, when they were young, all studied here. At the present time, what was a genius? The problem was that the Heavenly Tao Academy now opened a backdoor for Li Qiye, an honor even divine person Ji Kong Wudi did not receive. Opening a backdoor for a student was not something any middle-aged man or supreme elder of the Heavenly Tao Academy had the authority to do. The recruitment process of the Heavenly Tao Academy had always been strictly enforced. No one was allowed to use power for personal gain. This was one of the reasons the Heavenly Tao Academy stood firm to this day. One could use a backdoor, but only with the nod of two ancestors. The ancestors of the Heavenly Tao Academy had earth-shattering origins. They basically did not interfere with worldly affairs and were sealed in deep sleep. If it weren't for a major crisis, the ancestors would not be disturbed. Now, the superiors giving Li Qiye a backdoor meant that he had the nod of the ancestors. This confused Yui. If the ancestors agreed, Li Qiye should have chosen the Sacred World Academy. Yet, he deliberately chose the Great World Academy. It was truly strange. After seeing Yui off, Xianxia organized the room where Li Qiye would reside. Xianxia had never expected to do this kind of work before. Such trivial matters should have been handled by servants. Today, Xianxia was doing those tasks herself. Li Qiye and Xianxia lived alone in a courtyard. The space was vast. After Xiaodia served Li Qiye with his ablutions, he glanced at her. Li Qiye said, "If you have any questions, just ask. You have changed a lot during this time, and some matters can increase your knowledge." Xiaodia couldn't help but ask, "Who is mother-in-law Mo?" This question had been suppressed in Xiaodia's heart for a long time. She did not dare to ask. Every time mother-in-law Mo was mentioned, the mysterious and unfathomable old Taoist Peng of the Long Life Academy would completely change his expression. This was enough to suggest that mother-in-law Mo had an earth-shattering, heaven-piercing origin. Li Qiye looked at Xiaodia and slowly asked, "Have you ever heard of the Void Breaker Immortal?" Xiaodia had changed a lot during this period. She had worked hard in cultivation and made great progress. Her mindset was also good. This was why Li Qiye brought her to the Heavenly Tao Academy. If Xiaodia had not changed, Li Qiye would have sent her back to the Lion's Roar country. He cared specifically for the Qi family. Xiaodia tilted her head, pondered carefully, and shook her head, saying, "I've never heard that name. Is he a real immortal? This shows that you haven't reached that level yet. It's not strange. At the present time, only those old undying figures hiding in their coffins would know of the Void Breaker Immortal." Li Qiye did not blame Xiaodia and continued, "Then surely you've heard of Wang Yuan. Semi-Saint Wang Yuan, the ancestor who revitalized the Heavenly Tao Academy." Xiaodia quickly replied, "Although Wang Yuan passed away a long time ago, his saintly reputation is not weak in the Eastern 100 cities. Wang Yuan had not become an immortal emperor, but his fame was comparable to one, proving how influential he was." Li Qiye slowly said, "Wang Yuan is famous, but the Heavenly Tao Academy has another earth-shattering figure. That is the Void Breaker Immortal. Comparable to the Semi-Saint." Xiaodia was frightened. The news was too shocking. How terrifying was Semi-Saint Wang Yuan, who, though not yet an immortal emperor, held the status of one. Li Qiye looked into the distance and said, "A long time ago, she was inferior to Wang Yuan. In terms of the Tao of cultivation, Wang Yuan indeed planted a banner. As for her attainments now, it is hard to say." Xiaodia screamed, "She lives to this day. Impossible." But Xiaodia calmed down and realized it was very possible. Since the ancient ages, how many old undying figures had buried themselves, suppressing their blood energy and halting their lifespans, using blood-stone seals to erase the erosion of time, sleeping beneath the earth until now. Li Qiye deliberately enlightened Xiaodia. "You are mistaken. The Void Breaker Immortal does not need blood-stone seals. She lives to this day because of the Long Life Physique. Do you know why the Long Life Academy is named the Long Life Academy? It is because they inherited the immortal art of the Long Life Physique, passing it down to only one person generation after generation. The Void Breaker Immortal was the first academy head of the Long Life Academy. You also saw that old Taoist priest, correct? His not waking up all day is not because he's lazy, but because of the Long Life Physique. The Long Life Physique does not require blood-stone seals, nor does it require suppressing blood energy to halt lifespan. One wakes up whenever one wants to, and the seal is unnecessary. The Long Life Physique is of no benefit to cultivation, nor does it aid in conquering enemies or fighting. But the Long Life Physique allows one to live for a very, very long time. A person who cultivates the Long Life Physique is always sleeping, doing nothing at all. They just sleep, and wake up whenever they desire. For those cultivating the Long Life Physique, sleeping is cultivation. Always sleeping means always cultivating, and waking up means stopping cultivation. The 12 immortal physiques each have their own world-shattering divine abilities and power. Among the 12 immortal physiques, only the Long Life Physique does not aid in cultivation or attacking. The Long Life Physique does not possess many divine abilities, and cultivating the Long Life Physique requires an extremely long process. Other immortal physiques, if not successfully cultivated in their lifetime, will never succeed. And the cultivator may even perish. But the long-life physique is different. One lifetime is very short. 2 lifetimes are merely the beginning. Only the 3rd lifetime truly enters the realm. The process of cultivating the long-life physique is extremely slow, like a snail crawling. But only with enough perseverance, an unwavering Tao heart, and not being seduced by the mortal world can one persist. One must know that cultivating the long-life physique is a long, tedious process that few can persevere through. Li Qiye had cultivated more than just 1 or 2 geniuses with the long-life physique, but they all succumbed to temptation and gave up in the end. For example, cultivating the long-life physique for 10 years is acceptable. But if one advances slowly in the same formula realm, remaining there for 100 years, then 1,000 years, it's unacceptable. After 1 lifetime passes, the people beside you advance rapidly while you remain stuck in the formula realm. For many cultivators, this is unacceptable. People who cultivate for 8 or 10 years can already travel across the world. Cultivating for 100 years, they can sweep across a region, be respected and revered by others, enjoy numerous treasures, and wield countless divine weapons and immortal artifacts. Cultivating the long-life physique means constantly sleeping with the speed of a tortoise. Who can bear that? Never mind a genius, even the most foolish person cannot endure this lonely path of the great Tao. Li Qiye has lived for countless years. And he holds the physique scripture. To him, the biggest failure was the long-life physique. Li Qiye had nurtured people cultivating the long-life physique but failed every time. But the long-life physique is one of the 12 immortal physiques, not something useless. If cultivated to the very end, legend says one can be immortal and deathless. It is hard to say if the legend is true. But cultivating the long-life physique to the grand completion stage allows one to live for an extremely long time. There's no need to be like those old undying figures who bury themselves, enduring blood-stone seals. If they emerge, they must pay an extremely high price. The long-life physique can wake up whenever it wants. Li Qiye once thought so. The long-life physique is not the most difficult physique art in the world, nor the most difficult cultivation art in the mortal realm, but the long-life physique is the physique art and cultivation art that can never be successfully cultivated. The long-life physique. Hearing Li Qiye talk about the long-life physique made Xianxia yearn for it. Xianxia remembered her maternal ancestor, the founder of the Long River School. The Qi family's founder once cultivated a supreme immortal physique, the raging immortal overlord physique, and created a supreme immortal physique art. It is a pity that the founder's supreme physique art has been lost through the generations. Otherwise, their Lion's Roar school would not be as it is today. Mentioning the long-life physique made Li Qiye sigh with emotion. Since the ancient ages, Li Qiye had experienced the passage of time, experimenting many times with the physique scripture. Several cultivators with great completion immortal physiques were successfully nurtured by Li Qiye. His only regret was the long-life physique. Li Qiye tried many times. In his attempts, he traveled across the 9 worlds, selecting promising candidates for cultivation. In the end, no one could persist in the long-life physique until the end. The only exception was mother-in-law Mo. But to Li Qiye, mother-in-law Mo was an unexpected exception within an exception. Back then, Li Qiye held no hope for her. He did not even pay much attention to mother-in-law Mo, yet she persisted. Seeing Li Qiye lost in thought, Xianxia gently asked, "Are you acquainted with the Void Breaker Immortal?" Li Qiye looked at Xianxia. "This." Li Qiye smiled and said, "I cannot say, and you shouldn't know either. Some matters are better left unknown, or they will bring disaster upon you." The Void Breaker Immortal, mother-in-law Mo. Li Qiye sighed inwardly. He remembered that in the past, she was a very ordinary little girl, with extremely poor talent, incredibly dull. Mother-in-law Mo's elders also said she was incurable and ignored her. A simple mind formula that others would remember after hearing once. Mother-in-law Mo could barely remember after 10 lessons. Mother-in-law Mo's speed of learning to read was extremely slow. To comprehend and study an ordinary cultivation art, a genius usually needed 8 or 10 days. Mother-in-law Mo needed 10 years, or even longer. Mother-in-law Mo herself came from a cultivator family, but her talent was exceptionally poor. The elders in her clan thought mother-in-law Mo was foolish and useless, and were reluctant to pass on cultivation arts to her. But mother-in-law Mo possessed a resolute heart set on the Tao of cultivation, a heart eager to learn and thirsting for the profound mysteries of the great Tao. He remembered that mother-in-law Mo in the past was a little girl with an ordinary appearance, stammering speech, lacking confidence, dirty, and very dull. Mother-in-law Mo came from a cultivator family, but none of her clan members paid attention to her. At that time, Li Qiye, as the Dark Crow, first met mother-in-law Mo. He was guiding Wang Yuan in cultivation. The little girl, ridiculed by others, hid to the side, secretly watching, being extremely cautious. When Li Qiye first saw her, with his experience of meeting countless people and cultivating immortal emperors, he shook his head at mother-in-law Mo's talent. Although Li Qiye sometimes believed that talent was secondary, mother-in-law Mo's talent was hopelessly poor. Any sect could randomly select their disciple with the lowest talent for comparison, and mother-in-law Mo would still lose by a large margin. It could be said that mother-in-law Mo's talent was so poor that she was like someone born dull, yet she was not foolish. It was just that her comprehension ability was very poor, and her talent was too lacking. When Li Qiye first saw mother-in-law Mo, he was moved by her eyes filled with thirst for knowledge. A dirty, ordinary little girl, who even looked slightly mentally deficient, yet she had eyes that yearned for knowledge. These eyes moved Li Qiye, the Dark Crow who taught immortal emperors. At that time, Li Qiye had a thought, to transmit the initial mouth formula of the long life physique to mother-in-law Mo. It was the simplest initial mouth formula. It took mother-in-law Mo several days to remember the formula Li Qiye taught. It could be said that she was the dullest person he had ever met. Li Qiye patiently taught mother-in-law Mo every single phrase. For no other reason, he was moved by mother-in-law Mo's eager eyes. Li Qiye transmitted a few initial mouth formulas to mother-in-law Mo and taught nothing further, because even if he did, she wouldn't remember. Li Qiye quickly forgot about this matter. It wasn't until many years later that Li Qiye returned to that place. The child Wang Yuan had become a supreme figure, threatening the 9 worlds and covering the 8 directions. Wang Yuan had transformed from a child into an aging, invincible powerhouse. That time, Li Qiye met mother-in-law Mo incredibly. She was still cultivating the few mouth formulas he had taught her, still only in the mouth formula realm. The mouth formula realm is the lowest realm for a cultivator. Logically, mother-in-law Mo should not have lived that long. Meeting mother-in-law Mo again, Li Qiye knew that she had stepped onto the threshold of the long life physique. Logically, at such a low realm, even if one stepped into the grand hall of the long life physique, one should not be able to live that long, let alone mother-in-law Mo, who had only just stepped onto the threshold. Li Qiye knew that for all those years, mother-in-law Mo had stayed here. Only one thing was on her mind, constantly cultivating the few mind formulas he had taught her. Over countless years, mother-in-law Mo cultivated those few true formulas repeatedly until she was highly proficient, pushing her to touch the general rules of the supreme immortal physique art. The long life physique. Over the years, Li Qiye had experimented, wanting to cultivate a cultivator with the grand completion long life physique, to see if one could be immortal and deathless by cultivating it to the limit. But Li Qiye failed every time. Meeting mother-in-law Mo again, witnessing the incredible miracle, sparked hope in Li Qiye's heart. Li Qiye instructed Wang Yuan to take care of mother-in-law Mo. He taught her the supreme immortal physique art of the long life physique. Li Qiye was very strict in selecting those who received the supreme immortal physique art. No matter who it was, anyone taught the supreme physique art by Li Qiye had to swear the most solemn oath to him. Therefore, the immortal physique arts in Li Qiye's hands were not widely circulated. Those he nurtured were all trustworthy individuals, otherwise, he would not have chosen them. Mother-in-law Mo was the only person who surprised Li Qiye. He transmitted the long life physique to her, and Wang Yuan facilitated mother-in-law Mo becoming a disciple of the Heavenly Tao Academy. From then on, the Heavenly Tao Academy had an additional Long Life Academy. Since then, Li Qiye returned once every era, transmitting another segment of the Long Life Academy Supreme Physique Art to mother-in-law Mo. This continued until he had taught mother-in-law Mo the complete Supreme Immortal Physique Art. Mother-in-law Mo cultivated very slowly, but she always persevered. Her heart for the Tao was extremely sincere and unwavering. Gradually, mother-in-law Mo's cultivation grew stronger, and her wisdom increased. The long life physique changed mother-in-law Mo's physical body, sinews, and talent. Mother-in-law Mo created a miracle, setting an unprecedented example. He allowed her to pass on the long life physique, only to one disciple per generation. Therefore, the Long Life Academy has only had a single lineage transmission until now. Mother-in-law Mo always lived in seclusion in the Long Life Academy. She persisted in her cultivation without change, treating 10,000 years as a single day. Mother-in-law Mo progressed further and further on the path of the Long Life Physique. The Long Life Academy passed down several generations. Her disciples and grand-disciples perished, yet mother-in-law Mo walked further than anyone. Mother-in-law Mo began to reach the pinnacle. Her wisdom expanded, and her immortal physique was completed. Mother-in-law Mo's persistence through countless years finally brought her to the pinnacle. From then on, she became the most powerful and mysterious ancestor of the Heavenly Tao Academy. Even if people knew about the Void Breaker Immortal, they would not know how she cultivated. Her disciples and grand-disciples would not know that their founder went from being an utterly dull and useless person to reaching the pinnacle, possessing astonishing wisdom, and becoming the most powerful and mysterious ancestor. If this past were told, no one would believe it. Who would believe that a seemingly foolish person became the most powerful and mysterious ancestor of the Heavenly Tao Academy? In the Heavenly Tao Academy, after Semi-Saint Wang Yuan came the Void Breaker Immortal. In the Heavenly Tao Academy, the Void Breaker Immortal represented a supreme, powerful, and mysterious ancestor. No one would connect the inexplicably dull little girl with the incredibly wise, profound founder. Thinking of the past, Li Qiye sighed with emotion. Through countless years, Li Qiye became convinced that for a cultivator, the Tao heart is far more important than talent. As long as one has a persistent and unwavering Tao heart, no matter how poor the talent, no matter how unfortunate, they will eventually achieve success. Heaven rewards the diligent. This phrase is not just empty words. Qi Xiaodia saw Li Qiye lost in thought and did not ask further. She completely failed to see through him. Unfathomable and mysterious. Too many secrets were hidden behind Li Qiye. Go rest and adapt. Li Qiye instructed, although your cultivation is quite good. Now, the Heavenly Tao Academy will not pass on any cultivation arts, but you can go listen to the lectures. Their lectures are of a high standard, and the foundational Tao principles will benefit you greatly. Hearing Li Qiye's suggestion, Qi Xiaodia asked curiously, how does it compare to Fairy Maiden May's lectures? Li Qiye smiled and said, Mei Suyao is the type of talented cultivator. The profound principles of the great Tao she teaches are not wrong, but they are not suitable for everyone. Actually, your talent is also very high, but listening to the Great World Academy's lectures will benefit you more. A genius is inherently arrogant. They need the foundational Great Tao principles taught at the Great World Academy to temper them a bit. As for Mei Suyao, the profound principles of the Great Tao she teaches are mostly beyond criticism, but they lack accumulation. Remember, the Great Tao is a solitary path. Only by laying a firm foundation can you reap unimaginable benefits in the future. Qi Xiaodia kept Li Qiye's words firmly in mind. She engraved every word he personally taught her, treating them as invaluable guidance. The Great World Academy could be said to be the academy that accepted the most students in the Heavenly Tao Academy. This excludes the inner halls of the Heavenly Tao Academy, as the inner halls only recruit disciples, not students. The Heavenly Tao Academy's main academy for recruiting students had 5 major academies: the Great World Academy, the Leisure World Academy, the Pinnacle World Academy, the Sacred World Academy, and the Emperor World Academy. The Great World Academy was the main academy with the lowest standard requirement. Many disciples of small sects, and even rogue cultivators, had a high chance of entering the Great World Academy as long as they persevered diligently. Therefore, there were many disciples from small sects or rogue cultivators with low cultivation in the Great World Academy. Although the Great World Academy was the main academy with the lowest standard requirement, Semi-Saint Wang Yuan hailed from here. To this day, Semi-Saint Wang Yuan remains the pride and role model of the Great World Academy. The Leisure World Academy is the most complex academy, a mixed bag of individuals. In the Leisure World Academy, one can withhold their background and conceal their identity. As long as you pass the exam or pay the exorbitant tuition fee, you are admitted. The Leisure World Academy is a melting pot of individuals, with all kinds of young cultivators. There are successors of ancient kingdoms, hiding their identities, bandit leaders, and young cultivators with mysterious backgrounds. Among the immortal emperors of the ages, the most monstrous, loved and hated by people, praised and cursed. In equal measure, the Soaring Emperor, hailed from the Leisure World Academy. The Pinnacle World Academy is the main academy that produced the most talents among the 5 major academies of the Heavenly Tao Academy. Of course, the Pinnacle World Academy requires a very high standard, while the Leisure World Academy and Great World Academy allow admission simply by paying the fee. From the Pinnacle World Academy onward, if one does not meet the basic standard, they will be refused admission, regardless of wealth. To enter the Pinnacle World Academy, besides paying the exorbitant tuition fee, one must pass a basic examination. Those who successfully pass all the trials will be exempt from the tuition fee. Those who enter the Pinnacle World Academy are all disciples of great sects, powerful nations, or the most outstanding disciples of various inherited lineages. It can be said that the Pinnacle World Academy is crowded with talents, gathering the best disciples from nations and sects across the world. Therefore, the Pinnacle World Academy cultivated many heaven-defying talents. The majority of the invincible figures who emerged from the Heavenly Tao Academy hailed from the Pinnacle World Academy. Figures like the Long River School's ancestor, Martial God, and Tao ancestor, powerhouses who swept across the 8 directions and traversed the 9 worlds, all hailed from the Pinnacle World Academy. The Pinnacle World Academy tends to lead the current era. Students from the Heavenly Tao Academy's guardian divine beast also became the mainstream of an era. The Sacred World Academy is even more formidable. The admission requirements for the Sacred World Academy are extremely strict. If students in the Pinnacle World Academy are considered geniuses, the students in the Sacred World Academy are geniuses among geniuses. The majority of those who enter the Sacred World Academy are successors of Emperor lineage immortal gates or great sects and powerful nations with the means to study there. The Sacred World Academy produced many powerhouses. The most powerful was the sky-stepping Immortal Emperor, who was also the last Immortal Emperor of the era of emperors. The Emperor World Academy is the most mysterious main academy in the Heavenly Tao Academy. It is rare for anyone to enter the Emperor World Academy. Often, the Emperor World Academy does not recruit anyone because no one can pass the entrance examination. If students in the Sacred World Academy are geniuses among geniuses, the students in the Emperor World Academy are worthy of being the sole genius. Only 1 or 2 people enter the Emperor World Academy. In many eras, the Emperor World Academy remains empty, failing to recruit a single student. Despite its remoteness, the Emperor World Academy does not relax its standards, always maintaining extremely strict selection. Even if it fails to recruit any students, the Emperor World Academy is determined not to lower its standards. However, those who emerge from the Emperor World Academy are truly formidable. Even if not an immortal emperor, they are revered high above the 9 heavens. Noble figures of their era. The most formidable figure to emerge from the Emperor World Academy must be the Vast Sea Immortal Emperor. The Vast Sea Immortal Emperor founded the Heavenly Emperor sect, which is one of the most powerful inherited lineages since the ancient ages. One lineage with 4 emperors, and those 4 emperors spanned 4 eras. This is an unprecedented miracle since the ancient ages. In those 4 eras, the Heavenly Emperor sect was even called the number 1 sect in the 9 worlds. The 5 main academies of the Heavenly Tao Academy have vastly different Student recruitment standards, leading some to categorize them into the upper 3 academies and the lower 2 academies. The upper 3 academies refer to the Emperor World Academy, the Sacred World Academy, and the Pinnacle World Academy. The lower 2 academies are the Great World Academy and the Leisure World Academy. Qi Xiaodia enrolling in the Great World Academy was not a secret. Many students of the Great World Academy saw her arrive, and the news caused quite a stir. Li Qiye's mysterious background went unnoticed by anyone. In contrast, Qi Xiaodia's arrival attracted a lot of attention from students. Although the Lion's Roar School calls itself a small sect, and the Lion's Roar country calls itself a small nation, the comparison depends on who they are being compared to. Compared to the luminary ancient kingdom and the raging immortal holy nation, the Lion's Roar country's strength is indeed not strong. The strength of the Lion's Roar School can be ranked as a first-rate sect, slightly stronger than a second-rate sect. The Lion's Roar School has several true persons and ancient saints in its lineage. Such strength absolutely crushes any small sect or small lineage. The cleansing incense ancient sect in the past could not even compare. In the eyes of small sects and small lineages, the Lion's Roar School is a colossal power. To many disciples of small sects and rogue cultivators, Qi Xiaodia, the princess of the Lion's Roar country, is a formidable figure. Furthermore, Qi Xiaodia is truly a genius. Hailing from the Lion's Roar School, she is already a marquis at the vast sea realm. This is countless times stronger than the majority of the younger generation disciples of the luminary ancient kingdom and the raging immortal holy nation. Calling Qi Xiaodia a genius is no exaggeration. Qi Xiaodia's enrollment in the Great World Academy caused a stir. In an instant, many students discussed the matter animatedly. Some gossipy students, upon hearing the news, spread the word everywhere. Princess Qi has come to the Great World Academy. Hearing the news, many students' first reaction was disbelief. Impossible. The Lion's Roar School can be considered a great sect. Princess Qi is the strongest genius of the Lion's Roar School's younger generation. How could she enter the Great World Academy? Moreover, the Lion's Roar School can afford the tuition fee for the Pinnacle World Academy. It's definitely true. Some students swore. I saw it with my own eyes. Head disciple Yue personally brought her into the Great World Academy, and there was a male disciple with her. How can that be? Hearing the news, many cultivators in the Eastern 100 cities, especially those near the Lion's Roar country, felt it was too surreal. Qi Xiaodia was somewhat famous in the Eastern 100 cities. She hailed from the Lion's Roar country. And although not an ancient kingdom, she had reached the marquis realm. Coupled with Qi Xiaodia's exquisite beauty, she was an attractive beauty and a genius in the Eastern 100 cities. Qi Xiaodia's fame was not inferior to Sima Longyun, but Sima Longyun was backed by the raging immortal holy nation and an inherited lineage, so he was highly praised by many cultivators. A student from the Lion's Roar country spoke up. Princess Qi is truly a golden branch and jade leaf. Furthermore, she is a marquis through and through. Princess Qi hails from the Lion's Roar country. With her own ability, she has reached the marquis realm. Calling the princess a genius is no exaggeration. With Princess Qi's strength, she would absolutely not come to the Great World Academy. The princess has the strength to go to the Pinnacle World Academy. That's right. Princess Qi is the #1 of the Lion's Roar country's younger generation. The canary of our Lion's Roar country. Why would the princess suddenly come to the Great World Academy? Many students from the Lion's Roar country, both male and female, were proud of Qi Xiaodia. A student incited another female student. Senior sister Lin is close with Princess Qi, right? Ask her, and we'll know immediately. Qi Xiaodia's arrival instantly made her the most noticed person in the Great World Academy. Especially the male students from the Lion's Roar country or neighboring countries, many young cultivators who had a crush on Qi Xiaodia were very excited upon hearing the news. When some students mentioned Qi Xiaodia, they were excited, as if they wanted to pursue her immediately. The canary of the Lion's Roar country, the #1 beauty of our Lion's Roar country. The next day, Li Qiye woke up very early. Li Qiye intended to take the little mud eel for a walk, exploring the earth veins in the Heavenly Tao Academy, looking for any clues related to the Void Gate. Clang, 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 clang. The sound of the door opening rang out. Li Qiye was about to breathe in the cool air. Li Qiye had just opened the door and hadn't taken a breath yet when he heard a cheer. "Welcome, Your Highness Qi." The voice was melodious like a singing bird, soft and heartwarming. But the cheering suddenly stopped. I stared intently at Li Qiye, beautiful eyes. Outside Li Qiye's courtyard stood a group of beautiful female students, each around 20 years old, youthful and lovely. Many beautiful young female cultivators gathered together, each with her own style, alluringly beautiful. It was a pleasing sight. The cheering ceremony suddenly ceased. Everyone looked at Li Qiye. The women stared blankly at the young boy before them. The atmosphere was awkward. The female students, who hailed from the Lion's Roar country and neighboring countries, had planned a welcoming ceremony for Xianxia, wanting to give her a pleasant surprise. Unexpectedly, the person who came out was not Xianxia but the unfamiliar Li Qiye. I stared intently at Li Qiye. The group of beauties stared blankly at the young boy before them. Li Qiye was calm and composed as he looked at the beauties. He smiled leisurely and said, "It's early morning, the weather is cool, but the enthusiasm of you young ladies is as hot as fire. It's unbearable." Among the women, a slightly older, elegant female student said irritably, "Brat, what did you say?" The female student glared at Li Qiye with wide eyes. The little mud eel looked at the beautiful female students, nodded, and crawled closer. "Wow, so many beauties. Those fair, slender legs make this grandpa want to touch them." In an instant, shrill screams rang out. "Ah! The earthworm! So disgusting!" The beautiful female disciples turned pale, jumping up in panic, retreating backward, increasing the distance from the little mud eel. They were afraid the large earthworm would crawl onto their beautiful legs. The little mud eel was disheartened. Alas, a bunch of little girls with no knowledge. The little mud eel shook its head and said, "This grandpa is a naturally born divine earthworm. To touch you is your blessing." The little mud eel finished speaking and crawled back to Li Qiye's side. A female student said angrily, "You cursed earthworm. Are you asking for a beating?" Her voice was melodious like an oriole, pleasing to the ear. "Your Highness Qi." At this moment, Xianxia came out. She was cultivating in the courtyard and came out upon hearing the noise. Xianxia was very surprised to see so many female students. Many were familiar faces. The majority were female disciples from the Lion's Roar school. Xianxia looked at Li Qiye. She was afraid he would be displeased. After all, Li Qiye was always profound and difficult to keeping his distance from people. Li Qiye saw Xianxia looking at him with inquiring eyes. He smiled and said, "Since they are acquaintances, reminisce a bit. If you have time, going to listen to a lecture is also a good option." Li Qiye finished speaking and led the little mud eel away. Li Qiye went far away. A female student asked Xianxia, "Your Highness Qi, who is that brat? Is he a disciple of the Lion's Roar school?" Xianxia didn't know what to say. She glanced at the group of female disciples. Xianxia smiled bitterly. Looking at the female disciples reminded her of the first time she met Li Qiye, with her shallow knowledge, unaware of the vastness of the world. Li Qiye led the little mud eel to wander around the vast land of the Heavenly Tao Academy. It looked like he was strolling. But he was actually measuring the fluctuations of the earth veins beneath the Heavenly Tao Academy. The earth vein beneath the Heavenly Tao Academy is an astonishing great vein. It can be said to be the ancestral vein of the Eastern 100 Cities. This earth vein possesses heaven-shattering good fortune. The heaven and earth essence is immensely vast. This is one of the reasons why the Heavenly Tao Academy has been able to stand firm until now. The founder of the Heavenly Tao Academy used great divine power to build the Heavenly Tao Academy upon the great earth vein. Through the efforts of successive sages of the Heavenly Tao Academy, they locked the Great Earth Vein, allowing the Heavenly Tao Academy to eternally enjoy the good fortune from this land. But Li Qiye understood the Heavenly Tao Academy far better than the people living in it, even better than the reclusive ancestors. Since the primeval savage era until now, Li Qiye had visited the Heavenly Tao Academy countless times. Especially during the time Wang Yuan presided over the Heavenly Tao Academy, he knew the Heavenly Tao Academy like the back of his hand. The Heavenly Tao Academy locked the Great Earth Vein. Li Qiye knew the methods and the changes within. Deep in Li Qiye's sea of consciousness was a distant memory. In the ancient dark era, he once led countless human sages to borrow this great vein to resist waves of invasions and attacks. Therefore, Li Qiye was well aware of the Great Earth Vein's fluctuations. The little mud eel followed Li Qiye, sensing the extremely dense heaven and earth essence in the Heavenly Tao Academy, and lamented. Alas, what a good place! If I had known, I should have burrowed here back then. Entering the spiritual domain here is sheer enjoyment. Nurtured by such heaven and earth good fortune, it would be difficult not to become a divine emperor. The little mud eel drooled with desire. The ancestral god temple has the lingering aura of the 100 Battles Divine Emperor. The Divine Emperor shelters you. Later, I put you into the Long Life Academy, where Mother-in-law Mo shelters you. The ancestral god temple is nearby. Its lingering aura can still protect you. Is there any place safer than that? Moreover, that place is inconspicuous, no one will pay attention to it. Li Qiye glanced at the little mud eel. Putting you in the Heavenly Tao Academy is not difficult, but leaving later will be very hard for you. Do you see the domain god staying in the Heavenly Tao Academy? It can shatter the shackles of heaven and earth, but it's hard to repay the karmic debt. I don't think you want to be like the domain god, always staying in the Heavenly Tao Academy, do you? Haha, kidding, just kidding. Staying in the Heavenly Tao Academy forever would drive me crazy. The little mud eel flattered Li Qiye. I am the young master's tail. Wherever the young master goes, I follow. Sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 lands, traversing the 8 directions, how can the young master lack me by his side? Li Qiye glanced at the little mud eel and slowly said. Stop sucking up. Focus on searching for me. Find the void gate. I want to see the true face of one of the 9 great celestial treasures, and see where it leads. The void gate, one of the 9 great celestial treasures, has many legends associated with it. The world believes the void gate is just a legend, but Li Qiye is convinced that the void gate truly exists, just like the other 8 treasures. The question is, what is the ultimate profound principle of the void gate? This is the direction Li Qiye has always been searching for. Rumor has it that the void gate leads to the future. Some say the void gate returns to the past. Some say the void gate can reach the 10th world, outside the 9 worlds. No one knows if this is true or false. Does the 10th world even exist in this world? It is as mysterious as the void gate. The little mud eel thumped its chest. Rest assured, young master. Absolutely no problem. Li Qiye glanced at the little mud eel and said. Is that so? You were the one who ruined the myriad form true god's plan back then. You were just watching but still fell in with the myriad form true god. The little mud eel gasped. You can't blame me for that. The little mud eel complained. The old master's matter was indeed due to my carelessness, but the old master was completely sober at the time and knew exactly what he was doing. I thought the old master didn't need my reminder. One wrong step can ruin the whole game. Li Qiye sighed softly. That is the most terrifying aspect of the Buddhist burial plateau. It subtly infiltrates. So many invincible figures thought they were within their control, but in the end, they themselves became believers, thinking they had walked a different great Tao. The little mud eel cursed. Damn it. It's all because of that cursed piss pot. The little mud eel cursed fiercely, but its heart was afraid. That thing was truly sinister. To be fair, it has nothing to do with the jar. A thought can lead to a demon, a thought can lead to a god. It lies in one's original heart. The only regret is that the celestial thearch seized the primal energy long ago. Otherwise, I would have been able to retrieve that item later. Li Qiye narrowed his eyes as he spoke. Who in the world doesn't know that the Buddhist burial plateau has a world-shattering item? That item has made immortal emperors drool since the ancient ages, but regrettably, it could not be retrieved. Li Qiye tried several times over countless eras but failed. The little mud eel nodded and said, "Alas, that broken jar is too powerful. Even immortal emperors couldn't do it. Legend says the celestial thearch emerged from the myths and seized the primal energy." Li Qiye said, "Let's put the Buddhist burial plateau aside for now. We'll deal with the void gate first. Once I control the void gate, and when the Buddhist gate opens, I will hold the void scripture. With both the void gate and the void scripture in my hands, dealing with that jar is only a matter of time. I will slaughter my way into the immortal demon cave one day." Li Qiye narrowed his eyes. The little mud eel's blood boiled. "Young master, rest assured. I will definitely dedicate all my effort to help the young master obtain the void gate. With the void gate and the void scripture, it would be heaven-defying amongst the heaven-defying. Even the arrival of an immortal emperor would be no fear." Li Qiye continuously measured the Heavenly Tao Academy's earth vein. After more than 10 days of measuring, he finally determined the entrance. Li Qiye commanded the little mud eel, "Dive down. Don't be impatient. Use your void power to descend, avoid the Heavenly Tao Academy suppression array, and sense the source of the portal to see if you can find any traces. Be cautious of the domain god. If you dive down the way I instructed, you shouldn't accidentally run into the domain god. The domain god's current state is unstable, and it can't pay much attention. Young master, rest assured. I will be the first one to find the portal. Borrowing the earth vein to sense the source of the void gate. If the void gate truly exists within the portal, I will definitely be able to track it down." The little mud eel, having been instructed by Li Qiye, instantly burrowed into its spiritual domain and vanished. After completing this matter, Li Qiye intended to return to the Great World Academy, but he unexpectedly encountered someone. "I didn't expect to meet Brother Li here." It was Bing Yuxia, the successor of the Ice Feather Palace, who approached. Bing Yuxia was accompanied by beauties, all stunningly beautiful. Seeing Bing Yuxia cross-dressing as a man, Li Qiye didn't know what to say. This young lady simply wouldn't change her ways. Li Qiye glanced at Bing Yuxia and said, "Young lady, don't keep pretending to be a man. Be careful, or you'll turn into a demon human. Brother Li is truly humorous." Bing Yuxia smiled and said, "Which academy does Brother Li reside in? May I visit Brother Li?" The beauties accompanying Bing Yuxia were very surprised. Although Bing Yuxia cross-dressed as a man and was carefree, she was an arrogant person. Few people warranted such politeness from Bing Yuxia. What was the background of the ordinary young boy before them? Li Qiye immediately refused. "No need." Li Qiye said calmly, "You stay and court girls. Don't come to disturb me." Brother Li is wrong to say that. Bing Yuxia said with peerless grace, smiling, "Good things should naturally be shared with the princess. Since Brother Li is not free, next time, remember to come to the Leisure World Academy. I will introduce some peerless beauties to Brother Li. There will definitely be someone Brother Li likes." Li Qiye didn't know what to say to this cross-dressing young lady. Bing Yuxia was intelligent and wise, yet she imitated the mannerisms of the Ice Feather Immortal Emperor. Sometimes, Li Qiye wanted to teach Bing Yuxia a lesson, but seeing her resemblance to the Ice Feather Immortal Emperor made him sigh softly. Bing Yuxia laughed and said, "It seems Brother Li is tempted. Remember to come to the Leisure World Academy. I will definitely treat Brother Li well and introduce some princesses and saintesses to Brother Li." Despite cross-dressing as a man, Bing Yuxia was still incredibly beautiful. Li Qiye was between laughter and tears. This young lady was truly interesting, different from the successors of other great sects and ancient kingdoms. Bing Yuxia left. Another person emerged from nowhere, smiling faintly, and said, "Young master has also come to the Heavenly Tao Academy. That's truly unexpected. This was a tall, robust young man, a student of the Heavenly Tao Academy. His face was unfamiliar, and outsiders did not know his background. Li Qiye glanced at the unfamiliar student and asked, "How is it? Is the Heavenly Tao Academy your target this time?" Others might not recognize this student, but how could he escape Li Qiye's discerning eye? The young man was Sikong Toqian. Sikong Toqian rubbed his hands, smiling, and said, "This time, I ran into an old enemy in the Lion's Roar country's imperial palace, so I left without saying goodbye." Li Qiye didn't know what to say. This brat had made so many enemies that Sikong Toqian couldn't count them all. Li Qiye was too lazy to ask more. Sikong Toqian craned his neck, looking around to ensure no one was present. He asked curiously, "What rumors has the young master heard this time?" Li Qiye glanced at Sikong Toqian. "What rumors? I only came to the Great World Academy for a stroll." Sikong Toqian grinned broadly. He didn't believe what Li Qiye said but didn't dare to press him. Sikong Toqian quietly said, "I managed to obtain some secret information. I want to share it with the young master." Li Qiye asked dismissively, "What information?" Li Qiye was here for the Void Gate. He had no interest in other matters. Sikong Toqian looked around again, confirming no one was present. Before saying cautiously and seriously, "The Heavenly Tao Academy is in danger." Li Qiye narrowed his eyes and said, "Elaborate." This news piqued Li Qiye's interest. Sikong Toqian whispered, "I managed to find some secret information. It's an earth-shattering secret. Some people want to seize a windfall, and some people want to destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy." Destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy. Li Qiye narrowed his eyes. This was nothing strange. Since the ancient ages, how many lineages and dynasties had wanted to destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy? The Heavenly Tao Academy had endless resources. Its treasure vault contained countless immortal treasures and celestial artifacts. Casually selecting one item would be enough to cause people to fight fiercely until blood was spilled. Since the primeval savage era until now, the Heavenly Tao Academy had accumulated countless cultivation arts and secret manuals, which made people even more covetous. The land the Heavenly Tao Academy occupied could be said to be priceless. Just the earth vein beneath the ground alone, if one were to establish a legacy upon the great earth vein, they would achieve an everlasting endeavor. Since the ancient ages, there have been many attempts to destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy, but in the end, the Heavenly Tao Academy always stood firm. I understand the young master's thoughts. Sikong Toqian read Li Qiye's mind and said quietly, "If it were peacetime, these people wouldn't dare attack the Heavenly Tao Academy even with 100 times the courage. But now it's different." Li Qiye smiled and asked, "Oh, how is it different? Tell me." Sikong Toqian looked around and said, "I heard that the domain god of the Heavenly Tao Academy is about to die. The Heavenly Tao Academy's domain god might be affected by this portal opening. Not only will it die, but it might also erupt. Legend says the Heavenly Tao Academy's domain god has some issues. It might go crazy and destroy this entire region." Li Qiye smiled and asked, "So, someone is planning to fish in troubled waters?" Sikong Toqian said, "That's right. At that time, the Heavenly Tao Academy will be hard-pressed to defend itself and will fall into chaos. That is the best opportunity to loot a burning house." Li Qiye glanced at Sikong Toqian. "Are you talking about yourself or others?" Sikong Toqian gave an awkward laugh. "How could I have the guts for that? Furthermore, looting a burning house is the business of petty thieves. The secret information I got is that someone wants to seize the entire Heavenly Tao Academy. Swallowing the entire Heavenly Tao Academy. That's not easy." Li Qiye knew the Heavenly Tao Academy's strength. Even the foundation of an ancient kingdom might not be as rich. Sikong Toqian whispered, "That's right. So, everyone is secretly forming an alliance, planning to borrow several immortal emperor treasures, or even immortal emperor true weapons, in one go. Li Qiye narrowed his eyes and said. Quite ambitious. Legend says gathering a few immortal emperor treasures is easy. But there aren't many. If they want to gather a few immortal emperor true weapons, it's even harder. Xikong Toutian whispered. A formidable figure is stepping forward. I heard it's a legendary powerhouse who is secretly lobbying several powerful lineages. Some old undying figures who have been secluded for a long time are moved and plan to emerge. This matter does not only involve the Eastern 100 cities but also the Central Great Territory, Western Barren Wasteland, Southern Red Earth, and Bei Wangyang. Li Qiye rubbed his chin. To swallow the Heavenly Tao Academy. One lineage is not strong enough. Even an emperor lineage Immortal Gate could not swallow it whole. Perhaps several great lineages secretly cooperated to devour the entire Heavenly Tao Academy. Li Qiye smiled. A legendary powerhouse. In this difficult Tao era, there couldn't possibly be a true legendary powerhouse. This kind of existence must be an old man who has been buried for ages. Xikong Toutian quietly asked. What does the young master think? Li Qiye glanced at Xikong Toutian and said. You stay out of the Heavenly Tao Academy's business. Don't end up being dragged in when there's no meat to eat. This time, when the Heavenly Tao Academy's portal opens, you follow me. Perhaps there will be a matter where I need to use you. Xikong Toutian scratched his nose, hesitating. This. Li Qiye smiled and decisively turned to leave. Xikong Toutian gritted his teeth and stamped his foot. Xikong Toutian shouted toward Li Qiye's back. Young master. If there is anything you need, just say the word. I will definitely not refuse. Li Qiye stopped, turned to look at Xikong Toutian, and smiled. Li Qiye asked. Have you returned the medicinal marvel to little brother Qi yet? Li Qiye's sudden question stunned Xikong Toutian. He smiled awkwardly with a guilty conscience. He. Reporting to the young master, that brat is too busy to notice me. He's currently passionately involved with the young lady from the Treasured Cloud clan, sticking to her all day long like glue. I was hesitant to disturb them. Return it. Li Qiye said. Start with this matter. I will not repeat myself a second time. Xikong Toutian took a deep breath, nodded, and said. Since the young master has said so, I will personally deliver it to him. Li Qiye turned and left. Xikong Toutian quickly called out after him. Young master, if you need anything, let me know anytime. I'll be in the Leisure World Academy. Xikong Toutian going to. The Leisure World Academy was no surprise to Li Qiye. The Leisure World Academy is a mixed bag of people, containing all sorts of individuals. This brat hiding there was like a fish finding water. When Li Qiye returned to the Great World Academy, the courtyard was quiet, without the beautiful scene of grouped beauties from the early morning. Xianxia served Li Qiye with his ablutions. Until today, she considered herself his servant, but Li Qiye had never specified Xianxia's position. After Li Qiye finished washing, Xianxia asked for his opinion. May I go to the city tomorrow to meet up with my young sisters? Li Qiye asked softly. Meet up? Xianxia quickly replied. There are students from the Great World Academy and a few students from the Pinnacle World Academy. They are young cultivators from the Lion's Roar country or neighboring countries. Some are from the royal family. Li Qiye understood and nodded. Go connect with them. This was the difference between Xianxia and Li Xuangan. If Li Xuangan was like an arrogant winter plum blossom, Xianxia was a beauty of the mortal world. Xianxia was the princess of the Lion's Roar country. Her starting point was not as high as Li Xuanyan's. In other words, Xianxia was closer to the small sects, while Li Xuangan was high and mighty, untouchable in the eyes of the small sects. Xianxia going to socialize with the young people from the Lion's Roar country and neighboring countries was to stabilize the Lion's Roar country's position and gain more friends. Li Qiye smiled and said. I'll go with you then. Xianxia said in surprise. Oh. Xianxia didn't expect Li Qiye to want to come along. Li Qiye looked at Xianxia and said indifferently, "Beauties are abundant, with melodious voices." Just as the little mud eel said, it would be a waste not to see their fair, slender legs. Being surrounded by women is enjoyment. How can I miss the opportunity? These words were very lecherous and wicked. If someone else said them, they would be judged as low-class and perverted. But Li Qiye's words had a different meaning, calm and leisurely, like a poetic description of the scenery, elegant. Xianxia was stunned. Xianxia never expected this side of Li Qiye. Since she started serving him, Li Qiye had given Xianxia the impression of being profound and unfathomable, majestic like a tall mountain, inspiring awe. Sikong Toqian was like that, and old Taoist Peng also held Li Qiye in awe. Li Qiye was clearly much younger than Xianxia, but since following him, she had never viewed him as a young boy. Li Qiye was like a solemn, majestic superior. Now, Li Qiye's change left Xianxia bewildered, completely different from her imagination. All right, stop staring blankly. Going out to relax is a good thing. Li Qiye smiled and said, I've been quite strict with you lately. Go relax a bit. I am also a young man in the prime of my youth, right? How can I not join in on such a lively event? Li Qiye sighed slightly. He had been quite strict with Xianxia lately. After returning to the eastern 100 cities, so many memories flooded back. The bloody battles were covered in dust. Recalling the past weighed heavily on Li Qiye's heart. Deep love and much reproach. The love here was not Li Qiye's love for Xianxia, but for the Qi family ancestor, the 100 Battles Divine Emperor, his beloved general. Coming to the eastern 100 cities this time and encountering the descendant of the 100 Battles Divine Emperor, Li Qiye had not intended to cultivate Xianxia. But out of consideration for the 100 Battles Divine Emperor's past loyalty, he changed his mind, treating Xianxia very strictly. Xianxia smiled and said, All right, I will arrange for the young master to meet my sisters tomorrow. Xianxia became more intimate with Li Qiye, using the address young master very naturally. Unconsciously, Xianxia relaxed, because before, Li Qiye was like a stern teacher, making her forget that he was also a young boy in his youth. Li Qiye's words made Xianxia feel his youthful vitality. Just be yourself. Li Qiye smiled and said, Today, I will not talk about grand principles. Just relax your mind and face the solitary great Tao calmly. I only guided you to where you are today. How you cultivate in the future is up to you. I am not your master. Xianxia took a deep breath and said, I understand. Xianxia stared intently at Li Qiye, who was much younger than her, and smiled sweetly. Li Qiye smiled and shook his head. The next day, Xianxia and her sisters met in the city. Although the Heavenly Tao Academy was called an academy, it was actually like a nation, with vast territory and countless cities. In the Heavenly Tao Academy, the ancient cities were magnificent and extremely bustling. Xianxia and her sisters gathered at a restaurant in the city not far from the Great World Academy, reserving an entire floor. The sisters held a banquet to welcome Xianxia. There were dozens of beauties, most of whom were from the Lion's Roar country or neighboring countries. These female disciples held relatively high statuses, either as a princess of a nation or the successor of a sect. Their status and cultivation were not far from Xianxia's. Except for those who entered the Pinnacle World Academy, the other young women were all in the Great World Academy. The banquet was very lively, with melodious voices, soft whispers, and playful pouts. The numerous beauties displayed a style that dazzled the eye. In terms of beauty, Xianxia was one of the top 2 among the young women. Xianxia was the canary of the Lion's Roar country, possessing a truly stunning beauty. Although the other young women were slightly less beautiful than Xianxia, they each had their own charm and were pleasing to the eye. The young women gathered, chattering excitedly. Li Qiye sat in the corner, watching the group of young women laughing and chatting, and he smiled. Of course, Li Qiye and Xianxia's earlier talk about introducing him to the young women was just a joke. Li Qiye sat still, enjoying the vibrant youth and the heartwarming youthful vitality. The young women inevitably talked about Qi Xiaodiye and eventually mentioned Li Qiye. A young woman smiled and asked, "Your Highness Qi, is this little brother a disciple of the Lion's Roar country?" The young woman looked toward Li Qiye. Another young woman, who didn't look much older than Li Qiye, smiled and said, "I remember Sister Qi has a little brother. That brat follows Sister Qi all day long. Could he be Sister Qi's cousin?" Another young woman with a noble demeanor, clearly of high status, looked at Li Qiye. She smiled gently and said, "Sister Qi, is this truly your cousin? Shall I play matchmaker for him? There are many sisters present here. Perhaps someone is suitable for him." Qi Xiaodiye was speechless, choked by the question. Playing matchmaker for Li Qiye. Bing Yuxia was only qualified to be his maidservant. Qi Xiaodiye looked pleadingly toward Li Qiye. Li Qiye sat still, carefully looking at the women at the banquet table. When you older sisters talk like that, it makes this little brother not know what to do. Li Qiye smiled and said, "This little brother is a beginner at matchmaking, like a young lady entering the bridal sedan chair. Older sisters, please don't laugh at me. This little brother is young and shy. I will be embarrassed." Puffed, embarrassed. A lively young woman glanced at Li Qiye and said, "As I see it, you are a lecherous fellow. Since you walked in, your eyes have been darting around, looking at one person's face, then another. Your cunning demeanor clearly shows you are wicked." Another young woman chimed in. "Exactly. I see you are young. But your lust is as vast as the sky." Li Qiye was the only man at the banquet. He was younger than them. A group of young women gathered, so they boldly teased him. Facing dozens of young women, Li Qiye was not flustered at all. He said calmly, "Saying that is truly unfair to this little brother." Li Qiye smiled and said, "If I were truly so lecherous, wouldn't I just carry away anyone I set my eyes on?" Another young woman laughed and said, "Oh, the brat is talking tough. With your shoddy skill, do you dare kidnap a young lady? Be careful, or the young lady will beat your face." Swollen. A young woman as beautiful as Qi Xiaodiye laughed heartily. She said bravely, "Xiaodiye and I are close sisters. Xiaodiye's little brother is also my little brother. Tell your older sister. Which young lady have you set your eyes on? I'll go propose marriage for you." A young woman pointed to the youngest girl, who was about the same age as Li Qiye, and said, "I think little Yen is not bad." The young girl blushed, saying irritably, "Sister Lin, if you tease me any more, I'll ignore you." The young women laughed loudly. Qi Xiaodiye was between laughter and tears. The young women did not know whom they were teasing. Do not be fooled by his harmless appearance. If he were to get angry, everyone would be terrified. Li Qiye was teased by the young women but still spoke calmly. "Alas, I am a serious person. The older sisters keep teasing me, and it makes me uncomfortable." A young woman laughed and asked, "Puffed, a serious person? Does that mean when you're not serious, you're not a person?" Li Qiye said innocently. "Older sister, you are wrong. If I am not a person, what am I? Am I a scoundrel? I cannot allow myself to be a scoundrel." Another young woman poked his cheek, teasing Li Qiye. "You've only said 2 sentences and you're already talking nonsense. Aren't you ashamed?" Li Qiye, alone against a group of teasing young women, felt no pressure. They found it very amusing to tease him. Qi Xiaodiye sat and watched. She relaxed her mind, watching how the young master would end the situation. The noble young woman smiled and said, "Little brother, tell us. Who do you like? Your older sister will be your advocate." The noble young woman was a princess of a nation neighboring the Lion's Roar country. This. Li Qiye smiled, looking at the young women, his eyes sweeping over each one as if selecting someone suitable. A young woman pouted and said, "This lecherous fellow." Clop, clop, clop. Li Qiye had not finished looking at the young women at the banquet when footsteps sounded. People were coming upstairs, more than one. In a flash, 5 or 6 people came upstairs. Both men and women, their aura extraordinary. One young man wore an imperial crown, and one woman wore a phoenix robe. The men were heroic and imposing, and the women were stunningly beautiful. The lively atmosphere suddenly fell silent. The young women's faces changed when they saw the 5 or 6 young men and women coming upstairs. A woman led the group. She wore a phoenix robe and an imperial crown. Her demeanor was noble, and her phoenix eyes were fierce and intimidating. The woman glared at Xianxia. Xianxia's face darkened upon seeing the arrivals. The hearts of the sitting young women sank. This was because these 5 or 6 young men and women had astonishing backgrounds. The woman said coldly, "Xianxia, it's best that you are here. It saves this princess the trouble of going to the Great World Academy to find you." The woman was extremely arrogant and said with distaste, "Going to the Great World Academy dirties my shoes. A bunch of bottom-tier bugs and mice." The woman's words angered the young women. The princess of the nation neighboring the Lion's Roar country spoke up. "Princess Huangfu, that statement is going too far. The Tiger Roar sect is not an emperor lineage immortal gate." Thank you for listening to the story on KTN Storyverse. Please like and subscribe to support the channel.